Super Mario 64 is now approaching its official 30-year anniversary as of 2026, and yet it still remains to be one of the most discussed video games of all time in the current state of YouTube. Due to this popularity over literally 30 years, it is no surprise that this game has been overanalyzed to the absolute extreme, and retrospectives, map knowledge, speedrunning strategies, and even deep dives into the files of the game itself. However, one of the most important parts of this game's history, and one of the reasons it actually grew substantially in popularity in the modern era of technology, was the rise of theories and mainly creepypastas about the game. We have all heard the countless stories talking about how the game is personalized and whatnot, and that every single copy of the game is different, or that Wario apparition that so many people seem to find terrifying because, you know, a giant Wario head is just appearing out of nothing. But because of the overshadowing popularity of these theories, I mean, hoaxes, let's be for real here, some other theories that develop get pushed to the wayside when discussing what Super Mario 64 really means. It is no secret at this point that while Super Mario 64 was inherently meant to be a children's game that delves into the endless possibilities of the 3D gaming world, when looking at this game from multiple unique perspectives, there are certain coincidences that begin to arise that may have never been spotted by the average person. So with all that being said, in this video I wanted to cover Super Mario 64's weirdest and most perplexing theory known as the body imitation theory, how it fits with the context of the gameplay, the validity of its claims, and even the biology and psychology associated with the human mind and body. Sounds pretty weird, right? Well, let's waste no more time and dive into the ever so strange body imitation theory. Alright, so body imitation theory is a concept that generally has not been widespread literally anywhere I look on YouTube or really the entire internet. Other theories or stories that have been popularized in this genre tend to take elements that were previously not in the game and interlink it with its story to provide an interesting narrative for people to follow. For instance, the whole idea of that L is real statue in the courtyard was built up from speculation and attempts to achieve the green brother of our well-known protagonist, and while the massive leak that occurred in 2020 revealed that Luigi was in the files, he still was not present within the game itself. However, what is interesting about body imitation theory is that it delves into the meaning of the game, what it could potentially be meant to represent, rather than hoaxes involving supposed secrets that are present within the game. So what actually is body imitation theory? Well, the theory itself states that Super Mario 64 and its many levels and worlds are meant to represent parts of the human body. Yeah, I mean, hey, I did warn you this was gonna be pretty weird. But despite the fact that this sounds just insane and far-fetched, there is actually plenty of evidence to validate this claim. So let's see if this theory can actually hold some weight. Firstly, and probably the part of the body with the most logic, is the heart, which is representative of Princess Peach's castle in game. The heart is easily the most complex in terms of definition in this entire theory, as this is mainly where the theory derived and thus has its own theory to back its claims, known as the internal plexus of the castle theory. This theory states that the castle itself, including every room, hallway, and stairwell, is a manifestation of the heart of the game, and that the inner workings of the castle are meant to be representative of vessels and nerves, or a plexus. This is interesting as one of the plexuses of the average human body is known as the cardiac plexus, which happens to be situated right at the base of the heart. Now, it is stated that the playable character Mario is essentially the blood of this operation, as just like the heart of the human body, the castle pumps this blood throughout the many vessels of the body, just as Mario explores the castle and the worlds that inhabit it. This theory of the heart, taking all context aside, actually tends to make a lot of sense when you really think about it. The castle is the heart of the game, the place you return to for safe haven after every excursion to whatever world lied behind the painting you may have jumped into, and constantly is showing you and guiding your way to your next destination just as a heart would. Something that I also kind of wanted to add, which was just a side point to this, was that two of the most common colors seen within the castle are actually red and white, which of course correlate to the idea of white and red blood cells, which I thought was an interesting coincidence. Anyways, I'll be going in an order somewhat akin to how you would play the game regularly, meaning the next location would be Bomb Battlefield. The Bomb Battlefield is stated to be the mouth of the body, which is representative of how it is the first stage you always play on a new save file, which correlates to the mouth as it is also the first step in the digestion of food. dude. There are other interesting coincidences that back these claims. For instance, one of the major enemies of this map is the Chain Chomp, an enemy which you will notice is made up of a mouth being a good 50% of its body. Other coincidences lie within the Goombas, as they take the shape of traditional mushrooms, which of course can be sometimes eaten by humans. The last one is the Bob-ombs themselves, as they don't have any mouths, which could be seen as irony in this sense, I suppose. This one was interesting. To me, there are a lot of coincidences that back this claim up, but yeah, this is a little weaker compared to the whole heart theory. Next up is Whomp's Fortress, which has been said to represent the hands of the body. The logic behind this one essentially states that, hands are used to build things, and a major plot point of the stage is the whole idea of it being a fortress. Obviously, when you play the first star of this game, at the very top of the tower you will find the Whomp King, who will tell you that he is tired of his kind being used to create buildings and structures. The ironic part of this though is that when you defeat him, his fortress is established where he perished, which ties back into the whole hands theory because hands were used to build the fortress. Yeah, honestly, this is even weaker than the previous. I think they honestly just couldn't think of anything else and decided to use the hands because it can build things. I mean, yeah, sure they can do that, but hands can do a lot more too. Anyways, the next course is Jolly Roger Bay, which is said to represent the feet of the body. So the logic behind this one is just genius. Since the stage is the first one you will encounter that features swimming, people say that it is the feet because it is recommended to jump in water feet first rather than head first. Yeah, the logic here is a little interesting, but there is some more validity to this. For instance, one of the stars of the game requires a full A press to claim, which is the star where Mario has to open those 4 chests in that cave in a specific order, and since jumping in general requires the feet to be off the ground, then people thought it was the feet. Yeah, this is just completely crazy. We aren't even halfway and this stuff is already going into insanity. But anyways, let's keep it moving to Cool Mountain, which is said to represent the teeth of the body. So the biggest connection I could find this stage having to regular human teeth is the whole idea that the mountain itself is white and rigid like a sharp tooth, and that the slide of the mountain, like the one inside the cabin, could be representative of the nerves inside of the tooth as it spirals and goes in all directions like a nerve would. Interestingly though, this goes even further because the music used in the stage is actually a remixed version of Bob-omb Battlefield's track, which as we discussed earlier is the mouth, and the teeth are in the mouth. Like, whoa. The little cherry on top of this theory is that obviously Cool Mountain is going to be, well, pretty cool, and one of the main conditions associated with extreme cold is frostbite, which can cause teeth chattering. You know what, honestly, I'll give it to the people who came up with this theory. It honestly didn't make sense for a little bit, but I like the creativity of what they came up with, and it honestly does have some sense behind it, unlike but let's move on to the backyard, where we find Big Boo's haunt, which is said to represent the ears. Now, the theoretical connection here is that Big Boo's haunt is heavily associated with music. For instance, there is a jarring difference of music used for the mansion and its outskirts, which is more horror-like than most other music. Additionally, we're all familiar with this dude in the mansion who is literally a piano. Another interesting point is that Big Boo is one of the few enemies in this game, besides big bosses like King Womp or Bowser, that can actually talk to you in the game, which of course we hear through our ears. I guess this has some interesting connections, but like outside of that, it doesn't really have too many, so honestly, it's pretty bad, but not terrible like Jolly Roger Bay. Alright, so now it's time to head to the basement to Lethal Lava Land, which is said to represent the nose. Oh boy, yeah, so this one pretty much relates the volcano in the center of the stage to be a nose due to its shape and noticeable hole, which could be seen as a nostril. The only other validity that I could find behind this is the bullies, which, fair warning, this is pretty disgusting, are seen as snot balls, and the fire jets are seen as a runny nose. Yeah, you know what? I think this one took the cake for the weakest link here. These dudes look nothing like a booger or anything, and the whole centerpiece of this, the volcano, looks legitimately nothing like a nose. Let's just move on to Shifting Sandland, which is meant to apparently represent the bones. Despite it being a pretty hidden and unimportant stage in the grand scheme of things, it is said to be the bones because of the fact the level features a pyramid, which is connected to ancient Egypt, which is connected to mummies, which is connected to a skeletal appearance. I mean, the hoops you have to jump through to get here is just wild, and it's even said that the name Shifting Sandland is meant to represent this because bones shift as you grow older. You know, I don't know which one I think is worse at this point, Lethal Lava Land or this one. They might just both be terrible. Anyways, the next one here is Dire Docks, which is meant to represent the left foot. Oh wait, sorry, I mean the bladder. Essentially, this theory states that since the bladder is a small organ that holds urine that is excreted out of the human body, Dire Docks represents this since it's a small stage that holds water. Also, the biggest idea behind this theory is that the stage features one of the only exits of a stage with this hole, which, you know, could be representative of a way of getting rid of the liquid within it. I also saw this thing that said Bowser's sub was a kidney stone, which, yeah, I think people were genuinely losing it here. The last major course down here is Hazy Maze Cave, which, yes, is meant to represent the butt. I mean, do I really need to explain it? The weird haze, the balls of... yeah, I'm just not gonna explain it. I think you guys get the picture. But is it bad that this one is the one that makes the most sense of the entire downstairs levels? Anyways, let's move upstairs to Wet Dry World, which actually is the one that I think makes the most sense alongside the heart. It is highly theorized that this is meant to be a simulation of the human brain, with one of the reasons being that the hidden and unseen town underneath the level could be representative of the human subconscious. This is pretty interesting, and the cobblestone textures seen all over the stage could be representative of the wrinkles in the brain that, of course, are on the brain. But interestingly though, there is an unused brain diagram in the files of Super Mario 64, which is said to have been a reference for Wet Dry World. But of course, there isn't a whole lot of validity behind that. This one just kind of makes sense to me though, the whole subconscious idea and everything, but hey, maybe I'm the one going insane now. The next one is Snowman's Land, which is theorized to be the lungs. The only real evidence I could find to support this was that the giant snowman, you know, this guy blows air. Yep. That's about it. I mean, to be fair, he is the only person or quite literally anything in this game that does this, so I could see it here, but that is quite literally the only connection besides the idea that it contains ice, which can evaporate. Anyways, moving on, Tall Mountain is said to be the esophagus, or essentially the throat. The main piece of evidence to back this is the ginormous mushrooms that appear in this level, which could be seen as a connection to the esophagus because an esophagus is tall in the human body. It is also said that because the slide in this course is long and goes in one direction, that it is representative of the esophagus, and that since it reuses the music seen in Bob-omb Battlefield, it has to be connected to the mouth. Yeah, we're kind of reaching here. Next up is Tiny Huge Island, which is said to represent the eyes, and surprisingly, I actually can kind of see the vision on this one. Essentially, the two paintings that you can go into make it big or small, obviously, but it could be representative of near or farsightedness, which is obviously a condition associated with the eyes. It makes sense if you put all the context aside and really think about it, and honestly, I'll give whoever came up with this some points for that. Moving to the final upstairs level, we get to Tick-Tock Clock, which is said to be the nerves of the body. This whole idea is because the course itself is a clock, which has gears and pendulums to make it function, which could act as nerves of the clock itself. You know, honestly, I don't really know what to say here. I mean, sure, but like they could also be almost anything else in the human body too. Rainbow Ride is the last real stage to be representative of a part of the human body and is said to be the veins. This is because the veins in the human body are used to transport blood cells to the heart to receive oxygen, much like how the rainbow travels through the castle in the level, which previously had been related to a heart. This one is just kind of fun, to be honest. Like, yeah, sure, the rainbow here is the vein and the carpet is the red blood cell traveling to the heart. Anyways, although that was the last course, the secret hidden courses like the aquarium and castle slide also get some recognition here, being the vestigial organs. The only reason this is because they are small levels, which are just like the vestigial organs, and also could be seen as useless because of how little stars they contain, which is also a trait associated with most of these organs. But that's the entire theory, and I mean, just look at this beautiful person we made out of these courses. The body imitation theory is a great representation of the human imagination attempting to find meaning in things that don't have explicit messaging. However, do I believe in this whole idea or even a little bit of it? No. And I mean, I'll give them credit, some of them did make sense, but I think it's more coincidence or reaching points more than anything else, and also we are missing major parts of the body, like, I don't know, the stomach? So yeah, if you somehow made it to the end of this extremely weird video, let me know what you think of this theory, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.